Justice League, unite. All this and more on the Self-Evident Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. You got Mike. Man, it has been an exciting time for all of us, hasn't it? Of course, the political season is just absolutely rip-roaring, and it is going full steam, and guess what? Man, it is just beginning. This is going to get wild. And so I did want to cover some of this stuff because I found it interesting. I found it fascinating to watch. And I think it's something for us to really talk about because no matter where you stand on Trump, you still want to look at the people that he's surrounding himself with and what's the theme of the people that he is surrounding himself with. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about all of that because it's a valuable conversation. But don't forget, we still have our fundraiser drive. So if you have not donated yet and it's on your heart to do so, or you want to start becoming a monthly sponsor or up your monthly, go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Click that donate button. Help us do our fundraising drive for the rest of the year. And that helps us get to places around this nation that we can minister to other people. And we can bring the gospel. We can pray for people. We can pray for healing for people. We can disciple. Our mission really is to help people and to bring God to them. And so I'm asking you to pray about that. Also, perhaps you want a shirt. Perhaps you want a Constitution course. You want some resources. Go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Check that out. You can check out the blogs. That's all the stuff and all of the things. So please go to the website. You can also follow us on all of the social medias and the Twitter X's and the Facey Spaces and the Insta Snaps and whatever else there is. So, how's everybody doing? Let me know. Put in the comments. If you're listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And we're going to get this conversation started. I think this is a great conversation for us all to have. Trump got another announcement, or another endorsement announcement. This is somebody who the establishment hates. And immediately for me, that's a tick in the right box. If the establishment can't stand somebody and they've blackballed somebody, it tells me, okay, that's because this person challenges them. And I'm fine with that, man. And let me know what you think, but I'm happy to hear that. It's a breath of fresh air for me. So who's the person? Well, now it's Tulsi Gabbard. She has given her full endorsement of Trump. She came out and about a 7-minute speech supported Trump and spoke. It seemed to be sincerely. You know, when you watch somebody speak, if you pay close attention, you can kind of start to tell, hey, how sincere is this person really being? How much of it's just a pitch? And of course, while she may be sincere, the newspapers and the media, of course, are kind of hitting her, although they are not hitting her as hard as they are hitting RFK. Now, she has slipped her name onto the whole thing, so of course, they're all extremists, they're all wild. The Daily Beast reported Gabbard's political transformations has taken her from the anti-war wing of the Democratic Party to the inner MAGA circle. Because she endorsed Trump, she is part of the inner MAGA circle. And all of these articles cite her pathway from safe Democrat Hawaiian district to running for president to endorsing Biden to suddenly endorsing Trump, which that is something to look at is she really kind of burned herself. And I'm not saying she shouldn't have done it, but she kind of burned herself when she went after hardcore Clinton. She was originally kind of a Democrat darling. Now more moderate than most of the Democrats and kind of more even keel, but they saw something in her. They knew she was well-spoken. They knew she was smart. She was reasonable. She probably, the polls showed she did well. And then she got critical of Hillary Clinton, and you saw her kind of tossed to the side. Then she embarrasses Kamala Harris, really ruined Kamala Harris's primary run. Not that there was much of a run to begin with. It was more like a dragging foot across a sidewalk lope. And she finished Harris off. And there was an endorsement for Biden that came out. Now, how much of that was just, okay, it's either Biden or Trump? Biden, right? Could be. Not really sure how that went down. And I wouldn't mind hearing about it, what she thinks or what bridged that span. Now, we do have, and I've got some clips, some clues as to why I think she finally said, I can't be a part of this. Now, I think she really, with Biden, she was like, okay. With Harris, she's no way. And in her endorsement speech, and we're going to run the videos, she gave two big reasons. And so the first reason was really no wars. So after talking about Trump's commitment to troops, she was there at Arlington Cemetery to honor the anniversary of the 13 killed in the Afghanistan withdrawal. Yet Biden and Harris were nowhere to be found. Mind you, Harris was in town. She had meetings and stuff, and Biden was on vacation. But Trump was there, and Tulsi Gabbard was there with him. And Tulsi spoke about that Trump treated the event with honor, with solemnity, with a sacredness, a mournful weight of the lives lost. And she seems to be sincere about this. And you could tell she appreciated that because she has an anti-war stance. Now, if you don't know, she's a vet. She's military, long-term military career. And she's seen action. And I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. This is point number one that came across in her speech of why she's supporting Trump. So let's go to it.
We saw this through his first term in the presidency when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars.
She nailed it on that. Nailed it on that. He didn't start any new wars. Now, he did strike. So we can't just look at it and go, well, he didn't do anything. He did some strikes. Now, you could argue he was trying to prevent war with those strikes. You can have that debate. Anyway, she continues.
He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort.
That's important. Seeing war as a last resort. Whereas you look at this administration, and this administration wants war. Man, they want, if they could have ended Trump, and I mean, we've put it out there for you. I truly believe that that was a deep state move. If they could have ended him, there was also these small little rumors of an Iranian assassination plot and all of that. If they pulled it off, how easy would it have been to say, oh, it was the Iranians, we got to go after them because now they're assassinating political candidates. And I guarantee if that was the route they would have taken, they would have created a martyr out of Trump. We had our differences and we didn't like him, but he was ours and they went at him. For his memory, we got to go after them. We've already fomented and continued and stopped peace talks in Ukraine. Nobody talks about that. Boris Johnson went over there to scuttle a peace deal that was about to happen. Countless Ukrainians and Russians have died because the U.S. and Britain and others scuttled those peace deals. And we'll send our $250 billion that have been earmarked for that war. Military-industrial complex loves that war. And there are plenty of people, and I don't blame them, that support a war with Iran through Israel. And what I mean by I don't blame the people who are saying the war in Israel. Let me rephrase. I don't blame the people who are saying that the war in Israel is a proxy to go after Iran. I could see that for sure. And Tulsi doesn't want it to happen, and I don't blame her at all. And I'm glad to hear it is refreshing to have more and more people standing in front of a camera being willing to say, I don't know what they're doing, but it's got to stop. We're tired of being on the brink of war. I don't know about you guys, but you in America, are you not tired? Just tired of war, tired of killing? I did the math a while ago, and I think there's about 10 collective years that we have not been in a war since, I don't know, World War II. 10 collective years across the whole span that we haven't been in some type of engagement, conflict, war. And that's probably an over-exaggeration. So I'm glad. I'm glad Tulsi is seeing Trump as that outlet of this could be an option or a hope of ending some of these wars and getting ourselves out of these conflicts. Let's go on. Here's another one which is near and dear to a lot of us.
And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat.
Against those they deem as a threat. And you notice she's talking about weaponizing. And that's one thing that kind of connects to a lot of these people is they're recognizing, oh, they went after him, they went after me, right? She continues.
Over the last 3.5 years, she won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target.
Hear this?
Added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as
president. And maybe you didn't know about that, but yes, she got added to the domestic terrorist watch list. Why? Her? It is a complete weaponization of the agencies and the institutions of our government. And we harp on this all the time, but it bears repeating that she has been pushed to the brink by the other side to where she's now aligning with somebody that she probably would never have thought she would align with even 2 years ago. They have made her such a martyr. And this is, if there's one word, now, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. So by all means, Democrats, progressives, continue to do what you want to do. But if it were me, you might lay off. You might back off a little bit. Because what you're doing is you're actually creating martyrs who are uniting together precisely because you can't help yourself. And you feel that you have the freedom, nay, the duty, to crush the opposition in any way possible. Go ahead and think that. Because in case you haven't noticed, you have now aligned a group of people who a couple of years ago would never have been caught in the same room together and still recognize their vast differences, yet they're all saying, no, this has to stop. Unfortunately, it typically takes you being personally affected to actually step up and say, okay, the little stuff has to go. We're focused on the big stuff. But it's happening. And so again, don't interrupt your enemy while they're making mistakes. Now, the progressives have gotten rather insane about all of this endorsement stuff. And I think especially because it's out of left field stuff. This is not your typical, nobody cares if a Kari Lake or a Marjorie Taylor Greene endorses Trump. Nobody cares. Yeah, okay, par for the course, right? But when you start getting Democrats who are coming across the aisle and say, nope, I'm going to endorse this guy, that's when things are different. And of course, the media has immediately come out full force in their attack because they have to. And they have to make this sound as crazy as possible. And so they're pulling out all the stops. And the other person who's getting this attack is obviously RFK Jr. I got plenty of clips from him because I think it's really important. Conservatives don't know how to feel about the guy. And I don't blame you because it's messy. And we've got to figure out, okay, what's our overall principled position on the guy? But before that, the media has obviously lumped him in, and the media doesn't like him at all because he has been a thorn in the Democrat side for how long? And so while we may think, okay, RFK sounds a little bit weird here, but he's fairly level-headed, you've got rags like the USA Today who want you to be sure that they're all crazy, which pushes me towards him. Again, you're pushing people towards them. Rex Hupka of USA Today, this guy just couldn't help himself as he invoked the weird meme regarding RFK Jr. joining the ranks of Trump and Vance. Now, let me make sure I loaded them. Yep. So, there it is. On USA Today, he wrote, presidential ticket that has futilely tried to shake the weird label. You mean the label that you've thrown at them and plastered all over them constantly that is not a natural grassroots label. It's reeks of the whole deplorables thing. Yet you've labeled him this and you're throwing it at everybody else and then you're saying, well, they can't shake it. Well, yeah, I don't expect them to since you guys are saying it every other sentence. He continues, became roughly 17 billion times more bananas late last week when Trump accepted Kennedy's endorsement, shaking his hand on stage at an Arizona rally and hitching the GOP wagon as though you care where they're hitching it, to an insane conspiracy theorist, dangerous anti-vaxxer, and noted dead bear cub carcass hauler. Guy just couldn't help himself. So he continues because he, again, and honestly, maybe I'll try and post up the article link. No, I won't. Because I don't want you to give them traffic. So I'm not going to give it to you. Here's what I'll do. I'm writing a blog article about this anyways. I'll make sure to include extensive quotes from him. So that way you can visit Self-Evident instead of USA Today. So he continues, attacking RFK for his insane positions on things like vaccines, and Hupka expertly stated that was unerringly stupid and dangerous, except he doesn't give any evidence about how RFK is wrong for being anti-vaxxer. And then he condescendingly dismissed RFK's views on the CIA, which he says RFK claims is called Operation Mockingbird, when RFK is talking about the establishment media being used to sway the public. Oh, that's tough, isn't it, Hupka? How do you get them off the trail without proving you're a part of it? Yet, you double down and prove it to anybody in the know because you try to slander the whole concept of Operation Mockingbird, which is absolutely proven of a CIA program built to influence the American public through the media. Uh-oh. And this is what they do. Crazy conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer, talking about weird CIA programs called Operation Mockingbird that actually happened. And then there was Alex Floyd, who is the rapid response director for the Democrat National Committee, and he came out fully swinging. And this is what they're going to do. They're going to try and make, especially RFK and Trump and Tulsi Gabbard to a certain respect, sound as insane as possible. They want to make them completely unpalatable for the moderate, for the independent, for the person who's swinging. Yet do not forget, and we'll get into this in a second, do not forget that the Democrats were the ones who shoved Robert Kennedy out the door as hard as possible and tried to crush him because they know he's a threat. And they wouldn't even pick up his phone call when he was trying to figure out who he was going to endorse. He still hadn't decided. He even said in a Fox News interview, he was open to endorsing any of those candidates. Chase Oliver of the Libertarian Party didn't want anything to do with him. Now, Chase Oliver is crazy, but the Libertarian Party could have used him. They could have used that bolster from RFK Jr., but they didn't want to. So Alex Floyd said, Donald Trump's MAGA brand is so toxic that he's resorted to touting support from off-putting extremists like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard and Trump have a lot in common. They have both earned the praises of white supremacists and other extremists, celebrated the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and campaigned for dangerous election deniers. This is what they're going to do. And it's not going to stop. Because that's the only play that they really have. So Trump, Vance, Gabbard, and RFK, they must be insane. For all, these people have been hit with the extremist and weird label. Heck, even RFK's own family wrote a letter because all of us care so much about what the Kennedys say. It stated, "We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride," said a statement signed by 5 of the former independent presidential candidates' siblings. "We believe in Harrison Walsh. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story." And you've had other Kennedys come out stating that RFK is weird and they fully support Harris. Frankly, I have no care about what the Kennedys say. Y'all are almost as nut bar as the Baldwins, which Billy Baldwin came out and said that he used to be friends with RFK and their kids even carpooled together, but no more. No, the carpooling is done. We can't continue to carpool. He's supported Trump. I have no friend. Pretty sad. And frankly, I have no care or concern about what the Kennedys say. They're all entrenched deep into the Biden-Harris system, the Democrat system. So, of course, they are not going to ever say, well, you know, we disagree with Bobby and we wish he would rethink, but we love him and we know family is stronger than political position. No, that's not what they said. They basically said he's an outcast. We don't know what he's doing. He is a black sheep of the family. Our father would disown him. You know, like they go that whole crazy line. But you know what's not crazy? Getting quality entertainment for your kids. You can have a lifetime membership to quality stories, whether audiobooks, ebooks, visual stories, for your kids. That you don't have to worry about wokeness. You don't have to worry about all of this stuff going on. You know they're getting wholesome stuff. Go to sherwoodkids.com. Now, normally a lifetime membership, it's about $600 for $299 with discount code SELF. You can have a lifetime membership and access to this. Over 4,000 titles. They're adding more. And the best part is, look, my own son, he loves TV. He doesn't get to watch a whole lot of it. So when he gets to watch like a show or a movie, he is over the moon. But he's just as excited, if not more excited, to be able to listen to stories, audiobooks or discs or that kind of thing. And he'll do something. He'll play Legos. He'll draw. He'll do what it. And I know what he's getting. We're very careful about what he intakes. And so Sherwood Kids is dedicated to your kids getting quality entertainment that teaches them, instructs them, helps develop them. And you don't have to worry about the wokeness and all the constant junk and the high intensity stuff that leaves them anxious and angry and frustrated and grumpy. You ever had your kid who they watch TV and then they get done and they're all grumpy and anxious? You don't get that with this. So go to sherwoodkids.com, discount code SELF, get you half off a lifetime membership. Go sign up today. Now, RFK Jr., this guy is interesting. And I want you to put your thoughts of what you think of RFK Jr. So he made sure to point out and let us know that both he and Trump disagree on a lot. And it sounds like this endorsement was not easily come by in his heart, which is fine. More power to you, bud. But he also recognizes how much they have in common, and he also recognizes that the problems that they face are more important than the disagreements they have about other stuff. And he cites that when they've had long conversations, they agree on stuff like government oppression, the health oppression, and kids' health, children's health, and all of this stuff, right? And he also pointed out, you can tell he's becoming real, not becoming real. You can tell that maybe the scales have fallen from his eyes and he's recognizing the truth behind all of it, because he's, just like Tulsi, he's been personally affected. And he even points out in his speech, endorsement speech, the show of the Democrat Party, especially the whole Democrat National Convention. He talks about how they mentioned Trump 147 times the first night. Yet the RNC mentioned Biden twice the whole time, right? He recognized this whole like joy show that had no substance. And it was just glitz and glam and happy, cheery for hopey changey. There wasn't substance. There wasn't policy. And the only policy that they seem to have is not Trump. Can't be Trump. Go after Trump. Trump's evil. And he also points out that Harris hasn't done any interviews. And he points out, look, Trump and I are both doing interviews all the time. She hasn't done one. That's on purpose. This is the basement campaign. So if you remember, Biden didn't have a campaign leading up to 2020. It wasn't a real campaign. He sat in the basement in Delaware home, put out videos once in a while, and that was pretty much it. Because they knew they couldn't let him be in front of people. Do not let them lie to you and go, oh, we had no clue. He was so bad off. You know, when they hung him out to dry in that debate, they knew. Or they've lied to themselves so convincingly that they've bought the whole story and they're down the river. But RFK Jr. points this out. And he's making a smart move against the Democrats. He points out they are completely corrupt. They're moving forward. They've been trying to crush me. And instead of completely removing himself from all ballots, he's only going to remove himself from the ballots in states where it would hurt Trump. So battleground states where he might take votes away from Trump. And he is telling all of his voters in those states, don't vote for me. Vote for Trump. So we're going to go to some of his clips. And we're going to see what he has to say. Now, these are a little bit longer, so stick with me, but it's important to know what his positions actually are. Now, maybe you didn't get to see his speech. Maybe you haven't been able to tune in on stuff that's talking about what he said. We're going to cover it here. So we're going to go with the first one. He goes after the Democrats specifically and points out what we've all been saying the whole time. It's just refreshing to hear him say it because he has a base that maybe doesn't recognize or realize this. He might even have some Democrats that were like, I like him, but, I mean, he's not going to win, so maybe I should go for Biden. And he gets to actually tell them what's been going on. Let's go to this.
I'm sorry to say that while democracy may still be alive at the grassroots, it has become little more than a slogan for our political institutions, for our media, and for our government, and most sadly at all for me, the Democratic Party. In the name of saving democracy, The Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both presidents.
Now, I cut off a little bit because he stumbled and he went back, but legal warfare against both him and Trump. And he's right. And he's building this structure of, look, the Democrat Party is nothing what I thought it was. He started out as a Democrat and then realized, I'm not getting anywhere with this. I'm going to move to independent. And it was one of those, I'm hearing this a lot, where those Democrats who still have shred of sanity left are looking at their party and going, this is completely insane. I'm done. And that's what the MAGA movement really is in the Republican side. It really is people who were so sick and tired of the establishment Republicans losing over and over and over again, or celebrating when they lost at a slower pace than usual, and watched as guys like Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, and now Mike Johnson. Anybody remember Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney? The list goes on of all these establishment, middle of the road, milquetoast, no conviction deal makers that seem to always sell us out. And so you had the MAGA movement uprise precisely because people were sick of watching their party be something that it should have never been. And you're watching this last couple of election cycles with the Democrats. And it's a good thing to see that now people, instead of just going, oh, I guess it's just not the way it used to be, they're standing against it, because that party has crossed the Rubicon in terms of politics. It has now become all-out warfare. And what they've done to Trump, what they've done to RFK Jr., what they've done to Tulsi, they're doing to Elon one way, shape, or form. It's become warfare for them. Now, he goes on. RFK Jr. doesn't stop there. He goes down the list. He goes from the top to the bottom of situations that have happened. Here he talks about even the ballot situation.
Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail.
Right. So what you may not know is everywhere he went to put in the signatures to get on the ballot, which, and he gives his team across the nation lots of credit, because they had to go out and get signatures. Something like over 1 million signatures they were able to garner in order to get on ballots. That's huge. And of course, the DNC was right there to try and make his life a living hell and going after them in lawsuits. And there's always this argument about these petitions of, well, is the signature valid? Is it not? And so it's customary of, you don't just get the minimum number of signatures, you've got to go way above, because you know how many of them are going to get thrown out on not being valid. And he points out the lawfare has been insane. Lawfare was insane leading up to 2020. We just didn't hear about it. They were incessant of going into each state, especially battleground states, and getting the laws changed on how elections were done, how votes were taken in, how ballots were taken in. And you saw in these battleground states, there was a whole army of Democrat lawyers that went through and got laws changed everywhere they could. And you saw even judges overturning stuff and changing things and not ignoring stuff and not doing anything with stuff. And you got the mess that we had in 2020. And of course it continues. And anywhere they can attack, they're attacking. Now he goes on And his next part of it is the primary. And this is all one section of his speech.
It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden. Then, when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election.
Yep.
They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle.
And he goes on to talk about how Harris has really removed herself. But he's not pulling any punches. He's not sticking to the general, I think Trump would be good for this country. And no, it was refreshing to see a unhindered attack on all of the stuff wrong that we've all been feeling, that we've all been like, man, I wish somebody would say it that has the gravitas to say it. And I think he is one of those guys. He is a guy who, if he sits down with a guy like Joe Rogan, it goes out to tens of millions of people who may not otherwise know what's going on in the details of all of this. Because I'm mixed into politics 24/7. So I know what's going on this. And if you listen to us, you've probably got an idea. If you pay attention to other political commentary, you've got an idea. But there are plenty of people who don't have any clue of how messy and wicked it really is. And so it's a breath of fresh air when somebody finally stands on a stage and lets it fly. And CNN cut away because he was telling truths they were uncomfortable with. But he didn't stop there. He didn't just stop with attacking the Democrat Party. He went on to things that he really cares about, that he wants to see change. Now, I may not agree with his methods, and we'll get into those conversations, but we have to at least give the guy credit that he seems to actually want to change something, you know? All right, so this next one is America's health, and he cares about making America healthy. Hold your judgment. And just listen. I'm not endorsing every thought that he has about this, but I will say he makes some points. The question is, what do you do about it? So let's go to him.
We can change it very, very quickly. America can get healthy again. To do that, we need to do three things. First, we need to root out the corruption in our health agencies.
Let's stop there for a second. Yes and no. He says, first thing we need to do is root out the corruption in our health agencies. And this is where I'll disagree with him on. I think, and I'll come back to the big screen for me, because I'm gonna roll on this for a second. And this is where I would disagree with him. And he actually got asked this on Fox News. To me, get rid of these agencies, these health agencies. They're corrupt. They're not how the government was intended to run. They have made a mess of things, and he would admit, yes, they're corrupt. But his plan is get the corruption out, put good people in. I don't know that that's possible. And I think that's where he and I would disagree on this. Now, props to him for seeing the problem, and he has been butting up against the health agencies for a long time. Let's just go for one small area, vaccines. Did you know the child vaccine schedule used to be 12? In 1986, Reagan passed a law, as in he signed it, he didn't veto it, that removed liability from pharmaceutical companies for the drugs they make. What did this do? Immediately opened the floodgates to the vaccine schedule for children. And Hep B was one of those ones where they had factories making it. Well, we got to use it. Put it on the childhood schedule. Now, we're at what? 60, 70 vaccines on the child baby schedule before 2 years old? And no liability. But it gets worse. Let's say there's a vaccine injury. Well, you can't sue the pharmaceutical companies because they have no liability. You, if you need a payout, have to then sue the DOJ. So the DOJ comes into bat for the pharmaceutical companies using their own lawyers. And then you have to fight tooth and nail against people paid by your own tax dollars to get a payout for the vaccine injury that they are shielding the pharmaceutical companies from being liable for. And this is something that absolutely infuriates me. And while Kennedy sees this and understands this is a massive problem, his solution is we just got to get the right people in. Get rid of it. End the liability for pharmaceutical companies. Get the DOJ out of fighting their cases for them. Get the agencies out of all of this stuff. And let's reset. Now, he goes on to talk about those agencies. Let's go to his other 2 points.
Very quickly.
Okay.
In our health agencies. Second, we need to change incentives in our healthcare system. And third, we need to inspire Americans to get healthy again. 80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest.
Yes, we need to get Americans healthy again. And yes, there is an extreme conflict of interest when you look at our agencies at the top levels of government. You see it whether it's in health agencies, you see, there's just this revolving door between the pharmaceutical companies and the health agencies. But guess what? There's also a revolving door between companies like Reuters and pharmaceutical companies. There's also a revolving door between our military staff and the Pentagon and all of that. And guess what? The military industrial complex. There is this nasty, incestuous relationship between business and government at the top levels. So when people say it's all capitalism's fault, this is not capitalism. This is actually probably closer to fascism. And guess what? Trump was not your fascist. If you want to look at the system, especially in Germany, but also Italy, this sense of fascism, this, for Germany, National Socialism, all of that, it was a relationship and cooperation between business and government. And they were in close, and they helped each other, and they moved forward with each other. And we've watched this nasty, awful, evil revolving door between our government and businesses, corporations, and they have milked the American people and killed them for gain. And I'm glad that he is at least pointing this out and saying this has got to end. But he continues, and he talks about these agencies. He says,
they're all corrupted and conflicted individuals. These agencies, the FDA, USDA, and CDC, all of them are controlled by giant for-profit corporations. 75% of the FDA's funding doesn't come from taxpayer, it comes from pharma. And pharma executives and consultants and lobbyists cycle in and out of these agencies with President Trump's backing. I'm going to change.
And I would love to see him change it. The problem is I just want to see those agencies go. But he is right. So most of the funding comes from the pharmaceutical companies because they're actually expected to be the ones to foot the bill for the FDA. But the problem is the FDA has also got plenty of people from the pharmaceutical companies that are sitting in the FDA. And let's put it this way. Let's have a little experiment here. Let's say you work at company A for 20 years. And the guy you're sitting next to, you both kind of work your way up the ladder together. You're good friends. You go golfing on the weekend together. Life is good. Your families, you do cookouts once in a while. So 20 years later, you both are pretty much at the top. You get offered a job over at the FDA. And let's say your job is approval. You're sitting over approval, right? Your buddy calls you, or even better, you guys are sitting in the backyard, grill out, the wives are talking and the kids are playing, and your buddy asks you, how's work over at the FDA? You go, man, it's good. It's good. I feel like I'm doing something there. He goes, look, I need your help. I've got almost $1 billion invested into this new drug. And the studies on it, we did studies. It's kind of on the line, man. You look at him, he's like, can you help me out? Just help me out with this. This helps both of us. Yeah, why not? I can push it through. You don't think that is happening? You think somehow these people who have made a career off of concocting new chemicals to treat the side effects of the last chemicals they concocted and have actual actuary tables on when to recall something depending on how many people die from it, these people will then sit in the backyard with their friend in the government and go, oh, well, morality would say I can't push him to approve it. And your buddy, who's grown up in the same system, would look at you and go, well, morality says that I've got to be clear on this. No, it's revolving door. I mean, look at what's going on with the military-industrial complex and what we're doing. You know what we're doing? We're getting rid of our old stock. That's what we're doing. We're shipping off our old stock, so our old stock is completely depleted. And then we've got to go to the military manufacturers and go, hey, we need more missiles. Man, we ran through all of our missiles. It's all over there in Ukraine. We need more. Oh, and by the way, Ukraine, with the money we sent them, will then be ordering more missiles from you as well. They're literally passing dollars around to each other. And I appreciate RFK in the sense that I do honestly think he's got a nobility streak of, I just want to make this right. I've just got to get the right people in the position. My question is it possible? Can you actually find enough good people that they will reform the system? I don't think it's possible. No, I'm sitting from the outside. I'm a guy with a podcast. Who knows? As a buddy's dad who owned a farmer's market used to say, what do I know? I just drive a high-low. And that's pretty much how I feel. But I look at a system that is this corrupt, that is this deranged, and at some point, maybe you just got to put Old Yeller down. And to me, leave it to the states. Let the states handle that thing. Now, he doesn't stop. He says something that maybe most of us miss, but I think this is important too. He talks about unbiased science. And we'll get into this.
We're going to make sure the decisions of consumers, doctors, and patients are informed by unbiased science. A sick child is the best thing for the pharmaceutical industry. When
True.
American children or adults get sick with a chronic condition, they're put on medication for their entire life.
He's not wrong. If you have a chronic condition, especially from youth, and then, oh, well, we've got to give you medication. And so then you're on medication for the rest of your life. And this is where I appreciate him of, if we're going to talk about unbiased science, and he has been hit just as hard as anybody in terms of, oh, that's not science, or that's quackery, that's conspiracy theorists, especially with the whole vaccine thing. So I trust where he's coming from of, okay, this has to stop. Because in my personal opinion, government should not have an opinion about medical. It should be the medical community that has opinions about medical. And the medical community should have a down and out, knockout, drag out fight about it. I want a UFC matchup with my medical community. I want them fighting it out. Because what that tells me is people are really digging down to try and find the truth. Because then they can checkmate each other. But what I don't like is when, and it's proven, we just had Zuckerberg come out. Now, I don't trust this one. This is another one of those that are like, oh, Trump, he's kind of BA because he raised his fist after he got. I don't trust you, Zuckerberg. My guess is, and it looks like he even acted it when he said that. If you haven't seen the clip, go back. It's him talking about Trump almost getting assassinated, standing back up, raising his fist. And he's like, that was pretty BA. And you watch him and it's like, dude, you're acting. And there have been people who have said, and I kind of agree with this, of he's hedging his bets. He knows how hard he pushed endorsing and funneling money and all of that. And now he's like, no, we learned lessons. We're not endorsing candidates this time around. We're not going to suppress free speech. And government was pushing on us. And I do want to cover that because I think that's also an important story to get through. And I'm not going to cover it today. But now Facebook is starting to say, yeah, Biden White House, they pressured us. And the White House didn't have much to say about it. But either way, this whole misinformation thing, we saw clearly during COVID, especially with the whole vaccine stuff. And what frustrated me the most was that you had legit scientists and doctors coming out, questioning things and saying, look at all the evidence. And the funny thing is, when we were covering COVID, when it first started out, when we were covering the vaccines, we were nailing it. We were calling it tick for tick. And we were saying the stuff that was legit about what was going on. But the people who were coming out with that information were getting silenced. And guess who was in charge of that whole silencing movement? I am the science, Dr. Fauci. The man with a God complex. And the emails show they were trying to suppress speech. They were trying, it flat out in the emails was talking about basically, we have to ruin these people's careers. We have to destroy these people who might come out with a narrative that we're not pushing. And this is the same guy who told you don't wear masks, it doesn't matter, but then tells you to wear a mask. Then tells you to wear 2 masks. And then masks aren't necessary anymore. Well, we're back to 2 masks. All the while, money flowing into the bank, right? And so what I appreciate about RFK Jr. is, and I think most conservatives are this way, you guys appreciate him because of this whole vaccine thing. And the research I've done, again, what do I know? I just drive a high-low. The research I've done points to there are a lot more questions about this whole, especially vaccine schedule, especially for you with kids. There's so much information out there that they're not telling you because guess what they tell you? Oh, well, it's safe and effective. Just a small, and I know I'll probably lose people for this. I don't care. Small little anecdote. My wife was pregnant, and the nurse was like, oh, you should get your COVID shot. My wife's like, I'm pregnant. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's effective and safe. And thank goodness my wife had me because I had already talked to her about the truth, which was they had not studied it on pregnant women because that was against ethics. They had done no studies, but they were coming out and telling people that, oh, well, it's okay, it's safe and effective. Yet, now it's come out that Pfizer's own studies, when they did do, when they were looking post, 28% in their cases, so they had, I don't know, it was like 123 pregnant women with COVID shot in their sample set. 28% had stillbirths, miscarriages, death of the baby. But you told them, oh, it's fine. It's okay. This is why I don't trust the medical community. I feel like an enemy when I go into the medical community. When I go into a hospital, I expect a fight. My next kid, due in November, I expect a fight. It's like, fine, I'll have it. but you get looked at like you are an alien. And so people have passed around ideas that, RFK Jr. would be head of HHS. It's like, yes, but remember Betsy DeVos and how they were all scared that she was going to end the Department of Education. What happened? Nothing. Because she went in wanting to reform it and make it good again. And it's the same as it's ever been. And that's what concerns me about it. If RFK Jr. was put in charge of HHS, he would not go far enough. I don't believe it. He's a guy who still believes in government bureaucracy, and that's the problem. He's a guy who still believes that the government bureaucracy can do the job. And we've got to be aware of that. So before you just haul off raising your RFK Jr. placard, do know it's not that he is a true limited government, libertarian-minded, constitutional-minded type guy. He still believes in the goodness of bureaucracy. I don't. But what I will say, and I think you guys probably celebrate with me on this, what I love about this is you're getting people who have questioned and criticized the system, and they're joining forces. Some people are spreading rumors that RFK Jr., what if he got named head of CIA? Would that not be irony of ironies for the CIA? The same organization that pretty much even people in the government, RFK Jr. included, Trump included, like, yeah, it was the CIA that offed JFK. Could you imagine RFK Jr. is in charge of it? Heads would roll, which would be great. And you've got guys like Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, who have also put their weight behind Trump. And this is awesome because it's hard not to get excited about a collection of these type of people. They're not perfect. We're not going to agree with them all on Elon Musk. Climate change guy, former Democrat, using government subsidies to fund his climate change businesses. Vivek Ramaswamy comes from Big Pharma. Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat sweetheart. RFK Jr. supports government bureaucracy, Democrat, little bit off on how he sees the value of government in a person's life. Yet, they're all people who have been scorned and burned by the machine and the establishment. And my prayer and hope is that they've been scorned and burned enough that they want to go in and tear it apart. Don't just fix it here, a little duct tape there. It will not get the job done. And the running joke that I love is that, oh Lord, please send me the Trump that the left is afraid of. And I love that because they have made this monster in their mind. And when we look back at his 2016 presidential term, not bad. But it wasn't earth-shattering like they all expected it to be. If the guy is literally Hitler, he is the worst literally Hitler yet. And I think as I round this out, because I think I gave you enough to think about. This may not be perfect, but I would say this is a great start. Trump is getting the endorsements from the people that are not standard, they're not establishment, and frankly, I love that he is hated by the typical politicians. I love that these people are hated by them. If Mitt Romney doesn't like him, I can't help but back him. Okay, the Democrat establishment, the Republican establishment, the corporate establishment, the social media establishment, foreign governments, and interest in globalism, all of that, they don't like these people. And so for us, for the common folk, for this really is the populist movement, we're all saying, finally, some people who I feel like talk to me like an adult, treat me like an adult, say the things I'm thinking, ask the questions I'm thinking. Are they perfect? No. People obviously point the finger at X about its free speech issues. Now, mind you, it seems to be a lot better than Facebook or Instagram, and they seem to be working on it. They're having their fights where they need to, because guess what? They're having their fights in Brazil. And they closed their offices overnight because what Elon Musk termed Darth Vader, this judge, was going after them. So they're fine. We're pulling out. We're done. Offices are gone. And so he's having these free speech fights, which is important. He needs to. And he's got to box. And the more he boxes, it seems the more convinced in his own mind and his own heart of how important free speech is, which is good for us. And what I'm hoping is Trump, if he got a second term, he would go in convinced nobody is his friend that is a holdover, that is left over, that's part of the bureaucracy. And he would have to just let heads roll everywhere. And there are reports of CIA agents that are freaking out. People in the CIA who are like, I'm running the country, like leaving the country, I'm running if he gets elected. I don't think that's just because they think he's going to drag the country down. I think that's because he's going to really dig in, figure out what's going on here. So let us know your thoughts. I want to say thank you for everybody who's stuck with us, who's watching through. Do not forget our fundraising drive. Please go to theselfevidenttruth.com. We're bringing you content. We're building you resources. But most importantly, we go where we're called. And we are super grateful and happy to do big events, but we're also super grateful, happy to do little events. And we never want to leave the little guy out. And that's how you come into play, is you help us get to the little guy. And so please pray about donating, pray about becoming a monthly sponsor, a torchbearer, or pray about upping your monthly. So thank you so much. I love y'all. I will see you guys